Well, hello, everybody. So I wanted to take you through, yet I'm not exactly sure how to do this. Because, well, there's a lot. And if you notice here, I've put a lot of information here just through notes that weren't here, the last one that I showed you. There's so much here, it's not even funny. When you start looking at what's here, I started adding a lot of information and then connections to see how this stuff works. For instance, used to control humans, pain, suffering, and fear of death. So I get a little bit of a visual representation of how certain things connect when I look at this, but relevant to the notes, I've created a lot of information. A lot of this has been notes that I've written down over the last handful of years that I've been compiling. Some of it is just flat out research and compiling information. But I've put information in here to give people as thorough as possible insight, at which point they have to then go and do their own research. There's some elements of learning where you're tasked with doing it yourself, as they say. So give me just 1 second. I want to take you back to the crux of this. Hold on. Human design and higher faculties. Now, the reason I explain higher faculties is because these are the faculties that express through someone who is functioning at the upper 4 chakra layers of their being. And you know what? Just because I can do that, I want to show you exactly what I mean by that. So these chakras, it sounds all woo-woo and foofy, right? Chakras. So let's take a look at this. So we've got these 7 chakras, and when I talk about this, I'm referring to the upper 4 chakras versus when we're being like the animals, the lower 3 chakras. And why do I say that? Because when you look at, well, that's a little big. So when I zoom in on this, you're going to see element of fire. What do we got here? Power, will, and self-esteem. This one, you've got emotions, desires, and creativity. And this one, physical survival, self-preservation, and when you got here, you got ego and will and power, I'm going to dominate. These lower 3 chakral functioning expressions can be quite animalistic and have humans functioning from their more animal side, driven by urges and desires, lacking in self-control and self-discipline and virtues and things of that nature. So just to give you a bit of a visual representation of what it is that I mean when I say lower 3 chakras or functioning from below the belt, emotions, desires, creativity, survival, self-preservation. Here, self-esteem, power, and will, I guess that's not below the belt, but it's still one of those lower 3 chakral type of situations. So, from the perspective of presuming that humans desire to grow, have a desire to grow, to cultivate themselves, to develop themselves to be more today than they were yesterday, which was more than they were the day before that, which was more than they were the day before that. It only makes sense that, especially when you're conscious and sentient and aware and intelligent, spiritually tuning into things, that you would seek growth, development, and seek to cultivate yourself in whatever way that you could. And, well, when you start thinking of the upper four chakras, you start getting into higher human faculties, which encompass or comprise all of these things in different ways. There are the higher aspects of the mind. Yeah. There are virtues, which are higher aspects of human existence, human behavior, the human condition. Then there are virtues of the heart. And we don't see an awful lot of that expressing itself in this reality, unfortunately. So, what I want to do is take you through this. I'm going to fumble through this because I'm not that adept at presenting these things. And it's fair to say much of it will be from my perspective, although some of my perspective is fairly accurate, reasonable, rational, and yeah. So without further ado, where should I start? Well, since I have consistently said humans that lack empathy, sympathy, compassion, guilt, shame, and remorse are functioning at the subhuman level, maybe it makes a little bit of sense to go into what empathy, sympathy, and compassion truly are. I don't think that most people truly understand that, let alone understanding what guilt, shame, and remorse truly is, how it operates, and what it's designed to do. So I'm going to open up as you can tell, I've got notes here for all of this stuff. And you'll have to excuse me. Excuse me. My background is predominantly tech, and through corporate America, doing what's known as technical documentation. A lot of technical documentation has a particular style to it. So if this comes off with a particularly corporate style feel to the way that I've the headings and structured the way I've put the text on the page, you'll have to pardon me because it just kind of comes from that. So, but without further ado, let's just get into it. The higher faculties. Man was given higher faculties in lieu of instincts. And when you think about it, we were. The problem is that when childhood developmental processes have been hijacked and interrupted, or blankets of trauma and abuse get imposed upon that developing child, the pathway, the road to the development of said higher faculties gets stunted, blocked, hindered, and they get held back. That's why childhood abuse, childhood wounding is such a problem, because it prevents the proper growth, development, maturation, and evolution of the human. In many respects, the human will never rise above the psychological state, the wounding induced. So this is a problem, because if we've been given these higher faculties in lieu of instincts that clearly throughout nature serve all of the animals and everything in nature reasonably well, although the food chain is still the food chain, these instincts are there. So we lost, or those were removed, in lieu of higher faculties, in lieu of the intelligence we have, the ability to learn and focus and contemplate and utilize will and all those other things. So that's what higher faculties are. Higher faculties are the human capability, or the capacities within the human mind that, as it says here, transcend basic cognitive functions and allow individuals to access deeper levels of understanding, creativity. That's a higher faculty. You don't see a lot of creativity coming out of the animal kingdom. And if it is something that they do where the birds are flying in weird, funny patterns, and oh, look how that's pretty, I don't think it's a cognitive thing. That's something that's being orchestrated, if you will, by nature. So, and spiritual awareness. These faculties are often considered to be the innate aspects of the human consciousness that enable individuals to perceive and interact with the world in profound ways. While the specific higher faculties may vary depending on cultural, philosophical, or spiritual traditions, higher faculties represent the innate capabilities or capacities that generally require cultivation and work. Know thyself, humans, of the human mind to access deeper levels of awareness, deeper levels of creativity, deeper levels of wisdom. A lot of that will come through pain and suffering, and spiritual understanding. So cultivating and developing these faculties can lead to a very fulfilling life, a life that has purpose, a life that is harmonious. As we as humans individually tap into inherent potential to perceive and engage with the world in profound and what should be meaningful ways. That's what these higher faculties give us. Now, when you understand that, you understand the human being, and you're evil and you desire to control humans, you begin the process of social engineering, of injecting blankets of trauma upon every developing generation to effectively, although in an indirect way, hijack the otherwise healthy, natural childhood human developmental process that doesn't consist of all the traumas and baggage and bullshit that these evil pricks have injected into our world the way that they have, getting all the way down into the fabric of societies and family units and the whole nine yards. Well, when you think about it, well, how would the devil do it? What would the devil do? Well, it would prevent you from tapping into these higher faculties. Now, let's just go a little bit into what some of these higher faculties are. Intuition is a complex cognitive process. It truly is. That involves your ability to understand and know something instinctively without a need for conscious reasoning or analysis. It turns on for certain people at certain times. For some people, it's always switched off, and then all of a sudden, boom, they get this massive gut hit or this intuitive knowing, and then it turns off again. It's really weird how it works. The intuition is described as a gut feeling, or that sense of inner knowing that arises spontaneously without any apparent logical justification. Intuition is a natural aspect of the human cognition and is present in varying degrees in different individuals. Creativity should not need much explanation, but not everybody understands creativity if they're not very creative themselves. And I would argue that one of the things that turns creativity off is trauma, stress, cortisol, fear, survival mode, and other types of things that children can be put in, up to and including adults. But creativity is a fundamental aspect of the human condition. It's a fundamental aspect of human cognition and behavior that plays a vital role in innovation, figuring things out, creating things, problem solving, even self-expression with art, music, dance, and all that other kind of stuff. And creativity also adds to the ability for someone to find personal fulfillment. It encompasses a diverse range of cognitive processes, skills, behaviors and behaviors that contribute to the generation of original and valuable ideas, products, and experiences. Think about it. How many people have put that much time into trying to think about what intuition or creativity actually is and thought to themselves, how can I hone these components of myself? So wisdom, multifaceted virtue, definitely. And you get it from a lot of different ways, but it encompasses insight, deep insight, discernment, and an understanding gained through experience, reflection, contemplation. These are words that I've been talking about for years now, that as I have suffered, I have grinded on and contemplated and analyzed and assessed and ruminated to come to know some of the things that I've come to know. It goes beyond just knowledge or intelligence. Wisdom encompasses a profound understanding of human nature, the world, even the mysteries of our existence. And hell, have I been grinding on and analyzing the shit out of that for kind of a while now. Wisdom involves not only knowing facts or information, but also knowing how to apply that knowledge wisely and ethically in practical situations. I mean, this is just surface level stuff. Obviously these aren't deep, complex dives into all the subcomponents. If you want to understand this stuff, you're going to have to take it upon yourself to learn about it. Let's look at empathy. That's considered a higher faculty. And this is just a quick one. We'll go deeper in empathy right here. But empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings, perspectives, and experiences of others. Putting yourself in another person's shoes. Seeing the world from their perspective. Whether you agree with it or not, being able to at least stand in their shoes and see what it is they're seeing or why they're seeing what they're seeing. That requires empathy. And experiencing their emotions. Empathy that comes from the heart. That's an empathy where you're in a sympathetic resonance from a heart space, not a place of cognition. So empathy is experiencing their emotions like it says, like they were your own. Then you can really, really understand how someone feels. And that's not a capacity that everybody has. Empathy is a fundamental aspect of human connection, and it has its place in social interactions, and it plays a crucial role in building relationships, because when you can empathize with somebody, you can connect with them. They feel a connection with you, and then they begin to understand you, and then compassion can come from that. Compassion for each other, compassion for the plight of another, the understanding. How do you cultivate or foster understanding? It's through certain sympathetic and empathetic resonances that you have within, or some of it could even be cognitive. Some of it can even be cognitive. So anyway, higher faculties. Spiritual awareness is the capacity to perceive and connect with dimensions of reality beyond the material realm. I would suggest that many of us struggle with this. It involves recognizing the sacredness and interconnectedness of all life. Now, this was information that I found and figured I would put this in there because I'm not so sure I consider it all that sacred, to be quite honest with you. It's my nihilistic perspective here, but the sacredness and I would say that there is a lot of interconnectedness of all life. We're connected through the field, the space in between. There is some substance to this. So spiritual awareness gives people, depending on where they're at on their journey of life, a sense of unity or purpose. And then when you have those heavily spiritually transcendent experiences, I had a few of those in the Amazon myself. You don't see the animals out there with these vast spiritual experiences, spiritual awakenings, and that crack open consciousness. And, you don't see that. That's a human and above kind of thing. Spiritual awareness encompasses practices such as meditation, prayer, contemplation, mystical experiences that facilitate a deeper connection to the divine or higher levels of consciousness. That's a fair summation. And then higher consciousness. It refers to states of awareness that transcend the ordinary waking consciousness of the normie and provide access to expanded realms of perception and understanding. Yeah, that really sums it up. It involves experiencing a sense of oneness and interconnectedness. And for some people, that is true. I've had brief moments of that. Yeah, I've had brief moments of that. And transcendence that transcends the limitations of the ego or higher self. Haven't had a lot of that, a little bit, but anyway, higher consciousness may be accessed through meditation, spiritual practices, psychedelic experiences, or spontaneous moments of insight or revelation. It happens. The proverbial download, the proverbial aha moment, the proverbial Hello McFly moment, where you just kind of get something in a moment of clarity. So that's just a brief summation of what higher faculties are. Now, when we start getting into things like virtues and the higher aspects of mind, it's going to be a little time consuming. And honestly, I can't tell you that there's too many places that I can point to in this world where any one person is going to take this kind of time to actually explain tit for tat what these components, these higher faculties actually are and why they're important to the evolution of the human being. Like, if you're not in this place, if you're not in these places looking at developing these components of you here, these higher aspects of mind, these components of will, determination or discernment, empathy, compassion, all this stuff, then you're functioning at those lower three levels. Where are we at? Those lower three chakral points. I might as well bring it up again because it matters. This is the place where these people who are not interested in these things are functioning from. You know, the lower, baser level animal stuff that has you focused on power, will, egos in there, I'm sure, self-esteem, emotions, being ruled by emotions and desires, lacking self-control, self-discipline, things of that nature. And then, you know, the physical survival stuff. I got to get mine, self-preservation, that kind of shit. A lot of this is the more animalistic side of humans. So anyway, back to higher faculties. So let me think here. Yeah, since I've talked so much about the higher faculties of empathy, sympathy, compassion, guilt, shame, and remorse, let's get into it. What exactly is empathy? Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings, perspectives, and experiences of others. It involves putting oneself in another person's shoes, seeing the world from their perspective, and experiencing their emotions if they were one's own. Empathy is a fundamental aspect of human connection and social interaction, playing a crucial role in building relationships, cultivation of of understanding regarding the plight of others. And without empathy, it's quite challenging to feel compassion. So there's cognitive empathy, where you kind of see that, wow, that's gotta hurt. And cognitively, you can empathize with somebody because you can see in whatever way, and cognitively it's all clicking. Therefore, there's some compulsion within you to assist or render aid or whatever it might be that empathy allows you or compels you to do. Cognitive empathy requires active listening, observation, and the ability to imagine oneself in the other person's situation. So I would argue that for the neurodiverse, and if you'll find a narcissist, and this is a big fat if in big flashing neon letters with quotes and bold, all that shit, if you find a narcissist that, or a cluster B person that seems to express empathy, I would guarantee you it's almost cognitive and not emotional, because that's the real core of where empathy, I think, is derived from. The real stuff. Doesn't mean that cognitive empathy has no meaning. No, that's not what I'm saying. I just think that it comes from a different place, a vastly different place. Emotional empathy is different in that it comes from within, an internal knowing or understanding, or I should have put in there, or feeling about the plight of another, even resonating with their resonating with their emotions of others. When experiencing emotional empathy, individuals feel similar emotional response to the other person and what they're feeling, such as sadness, fear, joy. It could be it could be any emotion to experience emotional empathy. This shared emotional experience helps individuals to connect with others on a deeper level, bonding, things of that nature, and perhaps even respond with compassion and or support. It's real hard to express compassion if you have a block or inability to understand from an emotional level and empathize with where someone is. Empathy often leads to compassionate action or a desire to alleviate the suffering or distress of others. When we empathize with someone who is experiencing pain or hardship, we can be motivated to help or support them in meaningful ways. Compassionate action may involve offering emotional support, providing practical assistance, or advocating for change, or to address underlying issues through like conversation and things of that nature. Empathy allows individuals to bridge differences in background. I'm white, you're black. If we can empathize with the position of each other, we might be able to bridge our differences and come together and stand together and recognize the common face that we both share as far as a common enemy. But if we can't empathize with each other, that's just one example. Empathy allows individuals to bridge differences in background, culture, and identity. And I think that has its place. And that's not referring to this whole wokeism bullshit. By recognizing and validating the experiences and emotions of others, it fosters respect and understanding across differing perspectives and range of experiences, I would say as well, and promotes empathy-based communication and conflict resolution. When you have two people that don't understand each other, conflict resolution is going to be quite a challenging thing. Think about that for a second. While empathy is a valuable quality, it is important to establish boundaries. So this is saying not to allow yourself to be taken advantage of by those that would try and suck from you because they know you're a good-hearted person and you feel the plight of others. You've got to have boundaries. And something as seemingly simple as practicing self-care, when you're dealing with being an empathetic person, if you don't fill your own cup, if you don't tend to your own garden and your own well, you can get burned out emotionally. You can become emotionally exhausted when you're around people. And there's a lot of people like that in the world that are in need. It's very, very real. So self-care, boundaries, and just being aware are just basics to be able to maintain a high quality of expression and being from your heart, from those higher four chakras. Yep, you got to have boundaries. You got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and giving yourself and filling your well and your cup. Because the people that are taking from it, and that's not saying parasitically, but the people that have a need, it's because their well is dry or their cup is empty. So they are in need. Anyway, empathetic individuals may absorb and internalize the emotions of others, leading to emotional overwhelm if they don't prioritize their own well-being. This is where the human needs to become of the women. This is, where did I put that? This is where the human needs to become of the narcissist. Become aware. I missed that. There you go. Become aware of the narcissist. Like I said, these are notes. So that's just empathy alone. Let's look at sympathy. What exactly is sympathy, and what is it giving the human the capacity, the capability to do? Sympathy is feeling of compassion, sorrow, or concern for the suffering or hardships of others. Unlike empathy, which involves understanding and sharing in the feelings and experiences of others, sympathy focuses on acknowledging and expressing care or support for someone who's going through a difficult time. Sympathy is a valuable expression of care and compassion that acknowledges and validates the emotions and experiences of others. It plays an important role in building connections, fostering empathy, and providing comfort and support during times of need, when you're dealing with people, when you're trying to, help somebody that is in a physical need, an emotional need, some sort of distress, and you want to be supportive of them. Sympathy is kind of a useful thing to be able to have when you're in those situations. And for some people, they're just not even compelled. It's just not even within them. So compassionate response. Sympathy involves responding to another person's pain, sorrow, or adversity with kindness, empathy, or concern. It may include expressions of comfort, consolation, or encouragement to let a person know that they're not alone and that their feelings are acknowledged and that there's somebody out there that understands. That goes a long way. It goes a long way. Sympathy acknowledges the emotions and experiences. And this, again, none of this is wokeness. It's weird how I see that there can be traces of that type of narrative when you try to explain some of the softer sides of some of these higher faculties, because it talks about human connection. And this is some of the substance of life, the substance of human bonds, the substance of human connections. So some people might say, oh, that's all that gushy stuff. Well, okay, you're probably in your lower three chakras and you're not really, you're probably more of a tough guy than somebody that would be in service to others, kind of thing. But anyway, it's not quite that black and white. But anyway, I got to take a shot of my vape here. Sympathy acknowledges the emotions and experiences of others without necessarily experiencing for themselves. While empathetic individuals may share in the emotional experiences of others, sympathetic individuals recognize and validate the emotions of others from a place of care and compassion rather than embracing those emotions themselves. And when you feel empathy, sympathy, and compassion, you can move in and out of being empathetic, being sympathetic, being compassionate, and still not absorb somebody else's stuff. Or if you're not that well versed in this stuff, you can still move inside and outside of empathy, sympathy, and compassion and get sucked into some asshole's parasitic game of trying to suck you dry. Unfortunately, that's part of the human condition when people are at lower levels of consciousness. So being able to do that with boundaries, with discernment, yeah, you kind of have to have worked on yourself. You kind of have to have learned a lot about humans and the human condition to be able to do that effectively. I still struggle with it. It's something that I think for a lot of us is a work in process. And maybe some people might have just an innate knack for it. Certain people that might be cancers, they're like really loving and warm and compassionate individuals by nature, might have a easier time moving in and out. And then maybe those cancers that are a little bit more savvy recognize the way that humans can play the game sometimes. And you can be empathetic, sympathetic, and compassionate and still be on guard, if you will, to a degree that protects you and doesn't allow somebody to like suck from you and siphon all of your emotional goodness, if you will, or compassionate goodness from within you, because they're lacking all of their own. And when you're at a lower level of consciousness, it might be par for the course for them to try to suck it all from you. It's just the way it goes. So anyway, distance and perspective. Sympathy often involves maintaining a certain degree of emotional distance or perspective from the suffering of others. While individuals may feel sadness or concern for another's hardships, they do not necessarily become overwhelmed or absorbed by these emotions to the same extent as empathetic individuals. And yes, empathy is something that you have to have a high degree of self-awareness, self-control, self-discipline, discernment, and a handful of other things all kind of working and playing well together in concert, to not be like taken over by the narcissist in a lot of respects. So sympathy may be expressed through various forms of support, such as offering words of encouragement, sending a thoughtful gesture or a gift, simply being present, spending time with someone to listen, to just listen, provide some sort of emotional or sentimental or whatever kind of thing you would support or comfort for somebody that's in distress. This is where empathy, sympathy, and compassion typically express themselves, is with people who are in distress, despair, disparaging, or going through some horrible scenario in life, the loss of a loved one, being betrayed, having your legs taken out from underneath you, natural disasters, homelessness, just any number of things. that's where you're going to see, well, let me rephrase that. Those are the places and spaces that are most conducive to the expression of empathy and sympathy and compassion by humans who are capable of it to the degree and extent that they are willing and will. So cultural and social norms. The expression of sympathy may vary across cultures, and that's very true. Certain cultures are a lot more stoic. I think, I'm not being critical of any by saying this. I think you're not going to see such heavy expressions of sympathy in, for instance, a lot of Muslim countries or a lot of Asian countries. They're just not all warm and fuzzy like that. Perhaps certain parts, certain people, certain groups, sure, because you can't lump too many. There's not too many things in life where you can lump everybody in and categorize them all the same. There's a few, but very few. Anyway, so cultural expressions of sympathy will vary from country to country. And socially, it does actually play a big role in that. Influenced by cultural norms, cultural values, and the belief systems about empathy, compassion, and emotional expression. In some cultures, overt displays of sympathy may be encouraged, and others not so much. It may be considered a sign of weakness or a sign of some negative trait. It's crazy how culture shows the variation in human evolution and development across the world. It really does, because the culture will typically be an expression of a society, a group of people, and their cultural norms say a lot about where they're at on an evolutionary perspective. And I don't mean growing an appendage, evolving from animals, bipedal herd animals, to conscious, sentient, aware, tapped in, tuned in, turned on, that kind of stuff. Conscious, evolving, growing, learning, developing humans. See, that's what I want to live around. That's what I want to live in a world with. Not a bunch of dumb golem level fucking NPCs, bipedal herd animals that are fucking all stuck in their lower three chakras. I don't want to live in a world with those people. I don't say that it's their problem or it's their fault that they're in that condition. I would argue that it's a byproduct of what happened to them in their childhood. Yes, it's huge what happens to children, because that sets the stage for the adults that they will become on so many levels. So let's look at guilt. Guilt is an emotional experience characterized by feelings of responsibility, remorse, and regret over one's actions, thoughts, behaviors, particularly when they are perceived as violating moral, ethical, or societal norms. Guilt is often triggered by a belief or perception that one has committed a wrongdoing or failed to meet certain expectations or standards. Guilt is a complex and nuanced emotion that reflects an individual's moral and ethical sensibilities, their capacity for self-reflection and empathy, and their desire for personal integrity and growth. While guilt can be distressing, it can also serve as a catalyst for positive change. This is what I've been saying for years, that people who don't feel guilt, shame, or remorse don't have that thing in them that is designed to be the course corrector, the thing that unbends the moral compass. Because when you don't have that stuff, there's nothing within you that will create that greater sense of self-awareness or empathy or moral development. Guilt is something that helps to develop moral development. Guilt arises from an internal, this is in from within, and I think people that don't have a spirit or a soul, they don't have these things within them. They're completely lacking. These subhumans are completely lacking these things. Guilt arises from an internal conflict between one's actions and choices and one's sense of morality, integrity, and values. I would also suggest that it has to do with guilt arising from the assessment of one's behaviors upon other people and the level of harm, loss, or damage that they may have imposed or inflicted upon somebody who was innocent, that may not have done, and in many cases did not do anything to the person that inflicted the harm, loss, or damage. When individuals engage in behaviors that they perceive to be wrong or harmful, they may experience guilt as a form of self-condemnation and self-reproach. Guilt involves recognizing and taking responsibility for one's actions and their consequences. It reflects an acknowledgement of personal accountability for the harm or wrongdoing caused to oneself or others, and a desire to make amends or seek forgiveness. This ties into what I was saying about the difference between forgiveness and letting go. Someone's inner compulsion to make things right, someone's inner compulsion or desire to make amends, to fix it in whatever way they're capable. When you don't see that in people, they're lacking guilt and probably shame and remorse as well. Guilt is often accompanied by feelings of remorse and regret over past actions and decisions. Did I skip this one? No. Individuals may feel deep sadness, sorrow, or disappointment in themselves for having acted in ways that they now perceive as morally or ethically wrong. No, I'm a human being. And at 52 years old, there were plenty of times in my teens, 20s, even early 30s, where I had my bed buried firmly in my fucking ass. And it was because even though I was unconscious and I had my head in my ass, I still felt guilt, shame, and remorse if and when I fucked up. And it was through life and my own experiences of feeling guilt, shame, and remorse that I made adjustments in my character. I made adjustments in my ethical makeup. I made adjustments in the direction that my moral compass pointed. These aren't things that my mommy or daddy taught or instilled in me. The reason that these things are in me to the degree that they are is because of an innate ability to feel guilt, shame, or remorse, or all three. Guilt has both a cognitive and emotional component. On a cognitive level, individuals may engage in rumination, self-criticism, or self-blame as they reflect on their actions and their consequences. On an emotional level, guilt may manifest as feelings of sadness, shame, anxiety, or discomfort. Guilt can serve as a motivational force for change and personal growth. This is exactly what I've been saying. When individuals experience guilt, it may prompt them to reflect on their behavior, learn from their mistakes, and make efforts to reflect or atone for their actions. Guilt can inspire individuals to adopt a more ethical response and compassionate ways of interacting with others. See, you're never going to get this out of the narcissist. That's why I hate all narcissists and can watch all narcissists burn, because they lack empathy, sympathy, and compassion, guilt, shame, and remorse. Yet they try to behave like regular, normal humans, and they're not. They're not. They're subhuman. They should only be allowed to function with other subhumans. They should not be able to play on the same playing field as us. But they do, because this world is all fucked up and inverted. Guilt can be experienced in healthy or unhealthy ways. Healthy guilt arises from genuine moral or ethical transgressions and motivates individuals to take constructive action to address the harm caused. I'm going to read that one more time. Guilt can be experienced in healthy and unhealthy ways. Healthy guilt arises from genuine moral or ethical transgressions and motivations individuals. I fucked up the words there. Healthy guilt arises from genuine moral or ethical transgressions. And subsequently motivates individuals to take constructive action to address the harm caused. Unhealthy guilt, on the other hand, may stem from irrational or excessive self-blame, perfectionism, or an unrealistic standard, leading to feelings of shame, inadequacy, or self-loathing. The experience and expression of guilt may be influenced by cultural or social norms, values, and expectations regarding morality, responsibility, and things like forgiveness. Different cultures may have varying attitudes towards guilt, shame, and accountability, shaping how individuals perceive and cope with feelings of guilt. Guilt serves several important functions for humans. Guilt serves as a crucial emotional and moral mechanism that promotes learning, accountability, empathy, and social cohesion. Um, it plays a central role in guiding ethical behavior as well. This is probably one of the central components of ethical behavior is guilt, shame, and remorse keeps you behaving in a way that is moral and ethical because, well, you don't want to feel like shit for being a piece of shit. So it's like a central pillar in guiding the human being. Guilt, shame, and remorse. I really think that comes into play for people who have that spark within them because there's nothing but what's inside of you that's guiding this. Even though you may fuck up and hurt somebody in some way, something inside of you learns and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Wow, I feel like an asshole for doing that. I wish I didn't do that. I really feel bad. How can I make it up to you? That stuff comes from something divine within you that unfortunately is very wise and smart and loving, but it's really ignorant because that part of you has been put through the veil of forgetting by, well, vile, evil fucking demons. So this wonderful part of you is having to figure everything out. Guilt serves several important functions for humans. Guilt serves as a crucial emotional and moral mechanism that promotes learning, accountability, and empathy and social cohesion. It plays a central role in guiding ethical behavior and fostering healthy interpersonal relationships. Guilt helps with social regulation, helps you keep your behavior, decent. Guilt acts as a form of social regulation by signaling to you when individuals have violated societal norms or ethical standards. It helps maintain social cohesion by discouraging behaviors that would harm others or undermine the integrity of social relationships, social dynamics, social norms. Moral development. Guilt plays a key role in moral development by fostering a sense of responsibility and accountability for one's actions. It helps individuals internalize societal values and ethical principles, and it shapes their sense of right and wrong. And it can guide their behavior towards pro-social ends, meaning not being a cancer to your society and lacking guilt, shame, and remorse is, I think, fundamental to that. Facilitating learning and correction. Guilt prompts individuals to reflect on their actions and recognize the consequence of their behavior. It serves as a social mechanism for learning from mistakes and making changes to avoid repeating them in the future. Learning from one's mistakes. Wow, what a novel concept. By acknowledging feelings of guilt, individuals can engage in self-reflection and take steps to correct any harm done. Promoting empathy and compassion. Guilt is often accompanied by empathy and concern for the well-being of others. By experiencing guilt for causing harm or offense, individuals are motivated to consider the perspectives and feelings of those they affected, fostering empathy and compassion towards others. And guilt is also critical in maintaining relationships because expressing guilt can facilitate reconciliation and repair in interpersonal relationships. If you fucking destroy something in a relationship and you don't feel any guilt for it, well, there's nothing that's going to facilitate reconciliation now, is there? Nothing that's going to compel you from within to make it right. It signals to others that one recognizes and regrets any harm caused. Social cues, being able to pick up on things will kind of is reflected there, that guilt signals to others that they can see you feel guilty, that you recognize and you actually regret the harm that you caused, and you're willing to make it right, make it up, whatever, make it up to them. And that paves the way for forgiveness and the restoration of trust. This is exactly what I was talking about when I did that monologue about forgiveness versus letting go. By acknowledging feelings of guilt and expressing remorse, individuals can strengthen social and interpersonal and maintain positive relationships. So, see how long this takes? Empathy, sympathy, compassion, higher faculties, and guilt. We're going to go into shame and remorse, and I'm going to take a little break from this. It's one of the reasons why I haven't done this, is because it's a lot of focus, a lot of effort, and I don't get paid for this. So anyway, what exactly is shame? Hang on a second. And I can't pause this when I'm recording using my computer like I can when I'm recording a monologue using my phone as an example. I can pause that, put it down, and go take a shower if I want to, come back and pick up a train of thought where I left off, where I can't do that with this. It's just one take. So you get to sit through me taking a hit off my vape. It's nicotine. Taking a drink of water. And occasionally clearing my throat. I burped once in one of my most recent ones. So yeah, it is what it is. So what is shame? It's a complex and powerful and deeply distressing emotion characterized by a deep sense of humiliation, personal inadequacy, and unworthiness. Unlike guilt, which arises from a recognition of specific actions or behaviors as morally or ethically wrong, shame is often associated with more generalized sense of personal failure, deficiency, and defectiveness. Shame involves a heightened sense or a heightened self-consciousness and self-awareness, often accompanied by a negative evaluation of oneself as flawed, defective, or unworthy. Individuals experiencing shame may feel exposed, vulnerable, or embarrassed by their perceived shortcomings or vulnerabilities. While shame can be painful and challenging to navigate, it is possible to heal from shame and cultivate a greater sense of self-acceptance, resilience, and connection with others. And I would argue that, also shame arises from someone who willfully inflicts harm, loss, or damage upon another one. Shame is closely linked to social evaluation and comparison. Individuals experiencing shame may feel judgment, rejection, ridicule from others, believing that their flaws or inadequacies make them unworthy of acceptance or belonging. Shame often arises from the internalization of societal or cultural standards, norms, or expectations regarding appearance, behavior, success, or worthiness. When individuals perceive themselves as falling short of these standards, they may experience shame as a form of self-punishment or self-rejection. And for me, my biggest focus in explaining shame to people has been the part of self-punishment for bad, immoral, or harmful behavior towards others. Shame can lead to feelings of isolation, alienation, and disconnection from others. And see, because we don't want to feel these things, because we abhor shame and the behaviors that are conducive to feeling shame. Again, another course corrector, compass adjuster, if you will. Shame can lead to feelings of isolation, alienation, disconnection from others. Individuals experiencing shame may withdraw from societal interactions, hide their vulnerabilities, or engage in behaviors aimed at avoiding further exposure or rejection. Shame often accompanied by cognitive distortions or negative self-beliefs, such as I am fundamentally flawed, I am unlovable, I am a failure. These distorted beliefs reinforce feelings of inadequacy and unworthiness, perpetuating the cycle of shame. So this would be considered toxic shame. I probably should clarify this and the types of shame that there are. Shame can have profound effects on mental health well-being. Prolonged or intense experiences of shame may contribute to low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, perfectionism, and/or other psychological difficulties. Individuals may employ various coping mechanisms to manage feelings of shame, such as avoidance, denial, self-blame. They can also go to the other side of this spectrum as well to deal with shame. However, these coping strategies often reinforce shame and may lead to maladaptive behaviors, patterns of thinking. Overcoming shame requires compassion, self-acceptance, and a willingness to challenge negative self-beliefs. Overcoming shame also requires correcting the content of one's character. Healing from shame involves cultivating self-compassion, seeking support from others, challenging perfectionism and unrealistic standards, and practicing vulnerability and authenticity. Say it again, vulnerability and authenticity. Shame serves several functions for humans, both from an evolutionary and a psychological perspective. And the places and spaces that I've mostly come from when I've been pointing out what shame is, or those that have a lack of it being subhumans, speaking directly to this evolutionary component that is built right into humans. So, shame acts as a form of social regulation by signaling to individuals when they have violated social norms or expectations. It helps maintain cohesion within social groups by discouraging behaviors that could lead to rejection or ostracism. Experiencing shame can promote individuals to reflect on their actions and make adjustments to avoid similar mistakes in the future. It serves as a learning mechanism facilitating personal growth and adaptation by encouraging behaviors that align with societal values. See, when a child fucks up and they feel shame, and then their parents are like really condemning and critical, like a fucking narcissist is, that's when the shame can metastasize into this toxic shame, where now you begin to see yourself as inadequate and unworthy and all that stuff. It basically metastasizes what shame is really designed for and to be, and it weaponizes it against the human in a way that literally beats them down into a pit of inadequacy and unworthiness. And I do not think that that is the intention of shame. However, evil people have figured out how to weaponize shame against us. Moral development. Shame plays a role in moral development by promoting adherence to moral standards and principles. It helps individuals internalize societal norms and develop a sense of right and wrong, fostering pro-social behavior and ethical decision-making. In interpersonal relationships, shame can serve as a mechanism for maintaining social bonds and reinforcing social norms. It can signal remorse or an apology for transgression. You'll never get that out of the narcissist or the psychopath. Facilitating forgiveness or reconciliation between individuals. And when you're dealing with the narcissist or the psychopath, you'll never get remorse or an apology, but they're unworthy of forgiveness, and you don't want to reconcile with these living golem demons. Really, you don't. So shame promotes individuals to reflect on their actions and evaluate their self-concept. It can lead to insights into one's values, beliefs, and identity, fostering introspection, which is incredibly healthy for the human evolution, and self-awareness. While experiencing shame may be uncomfortable, it serves important functions in promoting social cohesion, moral development, and personal growth. However, excessive or chronic feelings of shame can have a negative consequence on mental health and well-being, highlighting the importance of understanding and managing this emotion effectively. So, we did guilt, we did shame, we did empathy, sympathy, compassion. Yep, remorse. So, remorse is a profound and often painful emotion characterized by feelings of regret, guilt, and sorrow over one's past actions, behaviors, or decisions, particularly when they have caused them harm or hurt to oneself or others. Remorse involves a genuine acknowledgement of responsibility for one's actions and a desire to make amends or seek forgiveness. And then here's a deeper explanation of what remorse is. Actually, don't need that. Remorse is a complex and multifaceted emotion that reflects individuals' capacity for moral reflection, empathy, and personal growth. I just said personal growth. Personal growth. While experiencing remorse can be painful and challenging, it also provides an opportunity for healing, reconciliation, and transformation as individuals strive to live in alignment with their values and principles. Remorse begins with the recognition or acknowledgement of one's own wrongdoing or moral transgression. Individuals experiencing remorse come to understand and accept that their actions have caused harm, hurt, or suffering to others or themselves. Remorse is accompanied by an intense emotional distress, including feelings of guilt, regret, shame, or sadness. Individuals may experience a sense of heaviness or burden as they grapple with the consequences of their actions and the pain that they have caused. Now, when you deal with people who do not feel any sense of burden, any heaviness, they don't consciously, from a perspective of having a conscience, grapple with the consequences of their actions towards other people. These people are dead inside. These are the NPCs. These are the living golem. These are the subhumans. And I'm getting to a point where I can no longer stand living in a reality with these fucking subhuman bipedal herd animals. So anyway, as they grapple with the consequences of their actions and the pain that they have caused, being an asshole and causing pain is one thing. But when you have remorse, empathy, sympathy, and compassion, guilt and shame turned on, you're probably not going to be that asshole for very long to too many people, which is fine. You learned, you grew, you developed, you evolved, you transcended. Without guilt, shame, and remorse, without empathy, sympathy, and compassion, you can do none of those things. At least not as far as I'm concerned, not as I see it. Remorse begins with the recognition and acknowledgement of one's wrongdoing. Did I read this one already? Cause harm or suffering to others, wrongdoing, or remorse is accompanied by intense emotional distress, feelings of guilt for the pain that they have caused. Remorse involves empathizing with the feelings and experiences of those who have been affected by one's actions. Individuals may feel genuine compassion and concern for the well-being of others, and they may be deeply affected by the pain and suffering they have caused. Oh, I've been there. I've definitely been there. And the reason why I talk about these things is being course correctors, character correctors, moral compass adjusters, is guilt, shame, and remorse, and empathy, sympathy, and compassion have been predominantly the sole things in my life that have helped me to evolve, if you will. Remorse is often accompanied by a strong desire for redemption or reconciliation. You'll never get that with the narcissist because their minds are malignant. Their soul is gone. Their spirit is gone. Or, yeah, it's gone. It's just dead. Meaning the meat sack that they're in is just biologically alive. Narcissists are not real humans as far as I'm concerned. The people on the cluster B spectrum, once they get calcified into the cunning, predatory, ruthless, merciless pieces of shit that they will be, that will express no empathy, sympathy, or compassion, or guilt, shame, or remorse from any substantive place within them. And if they do, many of them will do it from a cognitive perspective because they are cunning and intelligent enough to know that they may get something for it. They may be perceived in a specific way, but it's all because of manipulation. It's all because of an agenda. It's not some deep personal thing from within them. Remorse prompts individuals to engage in self-reflection and introspection, examining their their motives, their values, and their beliefs underlying their actions. It promotes an opportunity for personal growth and moral development as individuals learn from their mistakes and strive to become better versions of themselves. Remorse may lead to a sense of resolution and acceptance as individuals come to terms with their actions and the consequences thereof. While the emotional pain of remorse may linger, individuals may find solace knowing that they have taken responsibility for their actions and are committed to making positive changes moving forward. Humans that are capable of evolving, growing, being consciously involved in their own inner and spiritual evolution. Remorse serves as a deterrent against future wrongdoing by fostering greater awareness and empathy and accountability within yourself. Individuals who experience remorse are more likely to consider the potential consequences of their actions and to exercise greater caution and consideration in their behavior. Remorse serves several important functions for humans. Interesting. Now, how many people can you think of? Can you see? Can you witness? Even here on YouTube, there's a few names that come to mind that lack these higher faculties, that lack empathy, sympathy, compassion, that lack guilt, shame, and remorse, and that you can see are ruthless, are merciless. And in some ways, you can even see that they're predatory and even cunning just through witnessing their behaviors on the internet. Gee, who might we know that fits that category? Anyway, remorse. See, these are all things that one person I'm thinking of. These things are. This person is completely devoid and bereft of all of these substantive human qualities. On top of these higher faculties, these are things that you'll never, ever see coming out of, well, certain people. Anyway, higher aspects of mind. I'm sorry, I lost my place here. We're going to get back to remorse. So, remorse prompts individuals to reflect on their actions, recognizing the consequences of their behavior, promoting accountability. Expressing remorse signals to others that one recognizes and regrets any harm caused, thereby expressing moral accountability, moral and ethical awareness, and that there are boundaries, and if you cross them, then remorse, an expression of remorse, shows people that you are aware. You see what I'm saying? It matters. It can be the grounds to facilitate forgiveness and reconciliation in interpersonal relationships because you're demonstrating genuine remorse. I can see that you are generally bothered by it. It's likely you won't do it again. And a commitment to repairing the damage done. By acknowledging mistakes and expressing regret, individuals can strengthen social bonds and maintain positive relationships. Gee, what a novel concept, isn't it? Remorse encourages pro-social behavior. Remorse is often associated with empathy and concern for the well-being of others. By experiencing remorse for harmful actions, individuals are motivated to act in ways that promote the welfare of others and uphold societal norms and values. This is assuming that these societal norms and values are of an ethical and moral standard that everybody agrees with, and it's good. Remorse encourages pro-social behavior, and it fosters a sense of empathy and compassion towards others. Preserving self-image and identity. Well, that's another one. Remorse can also play a role in preserving one's self-image and identity as a moral and ethical individual. By experiencing remorse for wrongdoing, individuals can reaffirm their commitment to their own values and principles, maintaining a sense of integrity and self-respect. Remorse serves as a crucial emotional and moral mechanism that promotes learning, internal learning of the self, behaviors, and things of that nature, accountability, social cohesion, and personal growth. It plays a central role in shaping moral behavior and maintaining positive interpersonal relationships. In addition, remorse also serves several other important purposes for humans. Remorse helps to regulate emotions. Hang on a second. Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? Seriously. Are we doing this? Are we doing this? Yes, we are. Regulating emotions. Remorse can act as a form of emotional regulation by providing an outlet for feelings of guilt, shame, and regret. By acknowledging and expressing remorse for past actions, individuals can process and cope with these challenging emotions, ultimately promoting psychological well-being. Remorse motivates change. When you carry around remorse because of something that you did, yeah, it definitely does. Remorse serves as a powerful motivator for behavioral change. When individuals experience remorse for harmful actions, they are often driven to take concrete steps to rectify their mistakes and make amends. This motivation can lead to positive changes in behavior, attitudes, and relationships. Remorse also fosters empathy and understanding. It deepens individuals' capacity for empathy and understanding towards others. And you won't know that until you're racked with guilt, shame, and remorse and see how your capacity for empathy and understanding towards others deepens through those harsh feelings. It's interesting. By reflecting on the impact of their actions and experiencing remorse for any harm caused, individuals develop a greater sense of awareness, a greater awareness of their feelings, and perspectives of those they've affected. This enhanced empathy can strengthen interpersonal connections and it can promote compassion towards others, promoting moral growth. Remorse contributes to the ongoing moral development and character formation. By confronting and grappling with feelings of remorse, individuals engage in a process of self-reflection, introspection, and moral evaluation, moral inventory. The process fosters personal growth, leading to greater self-awareness, integrity. It's always good when you have greater self-awareness and greater levels of integrity. And ethical decision-making. It encourages restitution and reconciliation. If you fucking broke something for somebody and you got to fucking fix it or pay them the fuck back for something you damaged, or reconciliation. Remorse also promotes, God, I can't speak anymore. Remorse also promotes individuals to take steps to repair the harm that they have caused to restore trust in relationships. This may involve offering apologies, making reparations, seeking forgiveness, and that's not in the woke context. It's basically restitution, fixing what you broke, making payments for something that you took, stuff like that. And I didn't take anything from any other people, so I ain't got no stake in reparations in the woke version of it. Yeah, they can kiss my happy white ass. This may invoke offering apologies, making reparations, and seeking forgiveness from those affected. By actively addressing the consequences of their actions and demonstrating genuine remorse, individuals can facilitate healing and reconciliation of interpersonal conflicts. Remorse serves as a multifaceted emotional and moral response that plays a crucial role in prompting psychological well-being, development, moral development, interpersonal harmony, moral integrity. It reflects an individual's capacity for moral reflection, empathy, and accountability, ultimately contributing to their growth, their development as ethical beings, and their inner evolution. So all of that, just on these higher faculties that I've been talking about since I started talking about narcissists, as I've talked about them, and I'm saying that they lack empathy, sympathy, compassion, guilt, shame, remorse, they're cunning, they're ruthless, they're merciless, they're predatory. So we still have yet to get into the higher aspects of mind: intuition, will, analysis, concentration, consciousness, contemplation, creativity, focus, imagination, logic, memory, perception, and reason, discernment, also intelligence. There's more to this stuff than meets the eye, people. Trust me. And then when we get into virtues, we got a lot going on here. There's a lot going on. And while there was, I think actually we can probably, in this one, which I'm not going to get into right now, skip past the empathy one, because I think I basically just put the same thing. No, this one I didn't put nearly as much. This one is just kind of an overview. Cognitive empathy, emotional empathy, just an overview, where the other one kind of went a little bit more in depth. So anyway, it's just some basic stuff here. Let me see, higher faculties. Oh, virtues, morality, empathy, morality. Some of this stuff gets into, I go somewhat, descriptive. And through morality, your conscience is born, moral awareness, things of that nature, these things that seem to be so, I don't know, lacking in so many people out there. Virtues of the heart, understanding what these things truly are, what trust, love, kindness, what these things truly are. I assure you, there's more to them than the surface level understanding that most people who have never taken the time to truly do a deep dive or go deeper than surface level to understand these things, there's more to them than meets the eye. So what's left is these higher aspects of mind. And while that does tie into these virtues, virtues are going to be their own thing in and of themselves, of which we've already encompassed 3 of them with empathy, sympathy, and compassion. I would also suggest that guilt, shame, and remorse are also virtuous. I just haven't made those connections. But maybe not. Maybe not. They may just be valuable components of the developing human. So, I mean, that's up for debate. But anyway, so that's what I got for now. Just a little bit of showing you what it is that I've got to show you guys. Trust me, there's plenty to go into with this stuff. And there's also, I've added more to, controlling the human herd, just